All right, we are ready to write our very first API call. Let's do that now. So I'm going to open up my Sublime text editor, and I'm going to create an API call that basically will say return every user in our fake database. To do that, we can use our server object, and the syntax looks like this. We're going to say if the root URL is requested, we're always going to have this function with the request response and this third parameter called next. Let's complete the syntax here. And then inside we are going to do 4 things. Using our response object, we're going to say set the header. And we're going to say the content type is application JSON. We're telling the client that's calling the API that you can expect JSON to be returned in the response. It's not going to be HTML. It's not going to be some other format. It's going to be JSON. This res.writeHead function is actually going to write the header. It's going to return the header that we have to the client. And it accepts an argument, which is the HTTP response code. So standard with RESTful APIs and web APIs, 200 means that everything went successful. So that takes care of the response header, but in RESTful web APIs, we also need to send some data back in the response body. So to do that, we can say res.end, and I'm going to use something here which I'll explain, which is json.stringify users. So users refers to our users array, which is serving right now as our database. Res.end is saying return this response to the client. And json.stringify is going to actually just be a very simple way of creating a JSON response string containing whatever is in our users array. And last but not least, in order to ensure that no further execution takes place after this function is fully executed, we're going to do something which you will commonly see in Node.js, and it's return next, which just means go to the next part of the execution. We are fully done with this particular callback function. So let's take a step back once again. We're saying if the root URL is requested, run this callback function in Node.js. Because it's an event-driven language, you're always typically having some event occur, in which case you're getting the root URL, and then a callback function means that this code within the function will be executed once the GET request is initiated. And what we're doing here is we're saying, using our response object, set the header to content type application JSON, indicate that everything went fine with a 200 HTTP code, and finally return our entire database of users and indicate that this callback function is complete and that it will not be, for any reason, re-executed. We're done. So let's actually head to Postman and issue a GET request to our localhost 8080, taking away the hello part. We're just issuing a GET request to the root URL this time. And if I click send, you'll see we get this empty array, and that's because our user database is currently empty. So In the next few lessons, we're going to actually create some users so that we can see data coming back to us in Postman. That's it for this lesson, and I'll see you in the next lesson.